What's up, people? I am back for another video. Today, I figured since I wanted to get into the Hills Have Eyes movies, I figured we'd start with the original. And then, like I mentioned the other day, I didn't know there was two other sequels of the original, so we'll be doing those. So before I get into the remake. And I'm going to be straight up with you. I remember watching this the first time, may have been 2000, 11, because I think it was a little bit after I had seen the original. And I remember liking it at the time, but rewatching it today, I'm sorry. I don't see what people see in it. I think there's good stuff in it. I like the premise. You know, these group of travelers travel, their truck breaks down and they're stuck in the hills of Nevada, and you got this cannibalistic family that kills people. You know, cool premise. But I just think the original just dragged. I think this is a case where I think the remake took the concept and did it better. Because in my opinion, rewatching this, I was just bored. I'm gonna be honest. I found it boring. None of the characters I really cared about. The Jupiter family I thought were interesting, and there was some cool shit going on. Like Bob's death was pretty brutal. You know, he got killed with a tire iron. But I just felt like it was boring. It just kind of dragged. Like, it was paced awful, too. Like, I just feel like there were just scenes that just dragged on. Kind of like my same problem I have with some of the original Friday the 13th. I think it had the same problem there, where just there are scenes that just go on too long at times. That I'm just like, okay, what's going on? What are we doing? The Jupiter family were cool. I think that's probably the only really big positive. They did a good job at playing crazy, you know. Most people probably know Pluto. The face, he's in the cover of the movie. But I just feel like besides the Jupiters, I just didn't care. This film dragged at time. The music was decent. And when we did get kills, it was decent, but never mind. I just felt like it just was not just that it dragged. None of the characters you cared about. You're just kind of wanting to get to the next scene, and I don't know. I think this is, and I know this might be sacrilege. I know a lot of people, a lot of horror fans love this one, but I think this is a case where I think the remake did it better. I think they took that story and actually made it pay. Granted, it has been a little bit since I have seen that remake. Maybe like 8, maybe close to 10 years it's been since I've seen it. But I just, thinking about it, like, yeah, I probably would just watch the remake. I think this one's just not paced great. And I don't know what it is. I don't know, maybe I was just the way I was feeling today or what, but I was not feeling this movie. Not gonna sit here and say it's horrible and that there's no redeeming qualities. I think there's some decent stuff in there. I think the Jupiters are easily the biggest positive. I like some of the practical effects. I like the desert setting. I think it was an interesting setting, and the idea is there. I just think, it was a case of they probably weren't fully paying attention to the story and all that, so it just kind of just. Like I said, if that is a big negative, is that. And also, like, compared to the Texas Chainsaw, like the original, I think that was the other thing. I think the original Texas Chainsaw kind of did this concept better, where you wanted to know more about the Sawyers and and what was going on. Whereas I just feel like the Jupiters, they're there. I just feel like they're not the Jupiters. You just don't kind of care. But Yeah, I know this is gonna seem like a rant, but it kind of is. It's just I maybe remembered it wrong, but I thought I would like it. But I'm just like, man, this isn't good. It's boring. It's once until like really the Jupiters get involved in the story, just nothing happens. There are just points where it just kind of drags. But I like the setting is really cool. So the idea of like, this family that breaks down and then they get attacked by these cannibalistic fucking people who live in hills is an interesting idea, you know? But I just feel like they just didn't fully take the concept. And that is like, this is a case where a remake, granted, I'm not talking about the remake yet, but this is what a remake should be, though, is like how the Hills Have Eyes remake did. Is like, okay, we're gonna take this original idea, but actually do something with it. And I think that is what a remake should be. Not that's the case where you remake a bad movie and you make it better. Because I think there is cool ideas here, and I just think they didn't fully utilize it. At least even in like Texas Chainsaw, like there's at least some characters you can kind of get behind the original. Whereas the characters in this, they're just bodies to me. They're the epitome of just fodder. You're just kind of waiting for them to die. And like Brenda and Bob, I think end up are they're the only two characters I fully remember. But um, and Bob is more because I remember his death. But other than that, like this is all I could really say. It's not a good movie. I think there's good elements. If I were to give it out of 10, I'll probably give it a 5. There's some decent, like the score is positive. I'll probably be some of the kills are good, and like the biggest one, there is a good idea in there. I just think they just didn't utilize it right at the time. But that's all I can say. I can hopefully maybe Hills Have Eyes Part 2 is smidgen better. We'll see. I'm reviewing that one next Friday or next weekend essentially, but I'll try to do it on Friday. But yeah, tomorrow at some point, I'll probably try to do it like in the morning or something. I will do a Bands I Love on Iron Maiden. I'm surprised I didn't do that. I never did one on Iron Maiden. Because I was like, I looked at my Bands I Love because I did have a playlist of it, and I'm like, wait, I never did Iron Maiden, so I'm like, I have to change that. So we're doing that, and then Sunday I'll do Drowning Pool, or I'll do both on Sunday. It's one of the two, but we'll see. But besides that, I'm gonna get started on this review. But so we meet this family. I think they're the Coopers. I think that's their last name. That's well, I remember. They want to travel to Los Angeles, and they travel through the Nevada desert. And while traveling, their RV breaks down, and it kind of causes a crash. So I think it was like an explosion, which is like okay. Granted, you kind of have to turn your brain off for these kind of movies. So I'm like, explosion. I guess that could happen. I'm not. So they get warned by the townspeople that there's weirdos, basically, that you shouldn't go into the hills. And when they crashed, the dad character basically decided he's gonna go go into town while everyone else stays the night. And this is just where I feel like the film was just dragging. We were like, I was even checking because I don't know, I don't like doing that, like checking where we are in the movie for the most part. Because usually, especially if it's something I like, I don't do that. I just kind of go with the flow. But when I just did it out of I don't know instinct or whatever, and we were like almost 40 minutes in. I'm like, wait, nothing has happened. It's like, okay, what? we're just having these the family dialogue. Okay, one of them. I'll just kind of jump ahead to where this is where we first see the family because they have a daughter, the Jupiters, and yeah, they basically kill people who and steal their supplies. End up killing the dad, which I'll admit is one of probably the best death in the movie with the tire iron. And the and yeah, there's great and random N bomb drop in this movie too. I'm like out of nowhere, just but it's just like the killers are cool. Like when we meet Mars, Pluto, uh, Papa, Jupiter, like that aspect is cool. Like we kind of, I like the idea of these, people living in the hills and killing people. But I just feel like that it's unexplored, and it's only towards like the end do you really meet the Jupiters in the whole, really, because like you kind of meet them and they just feel like kind of just random crazies, and they don't do anything. It's just even for like a 70s slasher. I mean, this is a year before the original Halloween, so slashers weren't fully like in form yet. I mean, yeah, you had the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and there was a couple other slashers after that, but it really wasn't like Halloween is what caused that original, in my opinion. The original Halloween is what caused that resurgence. That's when we got like Friday the 13th and all that. And we weren't there yet, so maybe that's why this movie wasn't as good, because slashers weren't fully like established yet. But I don't know, I just wanted more. The kills were cool, and you do see how depraved these people are. Like I did like that, and Mars is probably the best of in terms of he did the most vile shit, you know. But I just feel like this is like towards the end of the movie. It's like nothing happens until that point. So I'm almost saying like if you're gonna watch this movie, you're gonna just be sitting there for a bit because it's just kind of drags, and you don't really care about these characters. And I normally am not all like, oh, I need to care about characters in slashers. Because for the most part, I accept with these kind of movies, I am definitely watching for the body count, especially the lower the budget too, the more I accept like, okay, I just want a carnage. But you didn't even give me that. You just gave me a meandering movie with some interesting ideas. And no characters to even follow. That's why I'm not even really paying attention to names. I'm kind of going more by their last name. But the daughter of the Jupiters kind of starts helping out the humans, or the victims, or whatever. It's just, I get it. No disrespect to people who love this movie, and maybe there's something there for you. I don't know. I might try to rewatch it again at some point and see, but it was just, I just was not feeling it at all. There were some things in there, but I was just, but the Coopers decide to set a trap for Papa Jupiter, and um, they end up fighting in the desert, and the family ends up killing um, the Pluto. I'll admit this ending was kind of cool, where he brutally beat. I think it's the main character, Robert Houston's character. I'm just gonna call him by his actor name. Ends up killing Pluto pretty brutally. So like overall, and Mars ends up